Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Chol HaMoed. We pick up today on Daf Tes Vav Amud Aleph with a new Siman. Siman Tavkuf Mem Daled. Din Tzarchei Rabim B'Chol HaMoed. The halachas that govern performing melachah for Tzarchei Rabim, for the needs of the public. Ubai Bei Seifim, and here we have two Seifim. Says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph. Tzarchei Rabim muter la'asoisam b'chol hamoed. You are allowed to perform malacha that's required for the needs of the tzibur, for public needs. Those are muter on Chol HaMoed. Kigoyin, for example, says the Mechaber, l'sakein hadrachim. Let's say you have to fix the streets, you have to repair the streets or the roads. U'lahaser mehem hamichsholos. If you have to clear away debris from the streets, you're allowed to do that on Chol HaMoed. Or letzayin hakvaros, if you need to mark where the location of a grave. Let's remember that it's critically important to mark the location of a grave because of kaihanim. You have kaihanim that may walk there, and you have shilos of tumah and tahara. So it's very important to mark the locations of the graves, kedei sheyizaru mehem kaihanim, so that the kaihanim should know to be careful and stay away from them. Ulesakein hamikvos, or to repair a mikveh. That's also a tzarchei rabim. The rabim needs a mikveh, especially in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, when again you have all the requirements of tumah and tahara, and there are many people who must become tahar. So a mikveh is definitely a tzarchei rabim. So all of these things you're allowed to do on Chol HaMoed. Now let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah and let's get a feel for what's behind this. What are some of the qualifications? Says the Mishnah Berurah here, in Oiskat Nalov, Tzarchei Rabim Mutter. Dal, you should know, the Chol Tzarchei Rabim Mutter. Anything that's required to be done on behalf of the public is permissible. Afilu kivnu malachton b'mayid, even if they specifically left this work to be done on Chol HaMoed. We know, we learned previously, many of the cases that we had where it's permissible to do melachah on Chol HaMoed, you're not allowed to intentionally leave that melachah to be done on Chol HaMoed. We've said over and over again, asar lechavin melachta l'moed. You're not allowed to plan to do the melachah on Chol HaMoed. If you know that something is going to become a davar of it, take care of it before Yom Tov. Don't say, yeah, I'll take care of it on Chol HaMoed because that's when I'm off and it's a davar, it'll be a davar of it, so it'll be mutter. No, that's mechavin melachta l'moed. You're not allowed to do that. But when it comes to tzarchei rabim, you could even be mechavin melachta l'moed, and we're going to discuss why. V'gam b'farhesia, and when you're doing melachah l'tzarchei rabim, you're even allowed to do it b'farhesia. You could do it publicly. U'b'tarich gadol, and you could even have a tircha yisera, even if it's something that takes a tremendous amount of exertion and busyness. You're allowed to do tzarchei rabim on Chol HaMoed. V'atam shehitiru b'kivein malachtoi. What is the reason that the Chazal were matir melachah on Chol HaMoed for tzarchei rabim, and they were even matir that you're allowed to be mechaven melachta l'moed? Explains the Chavetz Chaim, the chol tzarchei rabim einon nigmarim, the needs of the public are not addressed and they're not taken care of. Elo b'shah shehem b'telim kulam u'mischabrim yachad. When could the needs of the public be addressed? You need the public to be off and to have time to dedicate themselves to the needs of the tzibur. So if you have to call a meeting to plan, when are we going to take care of this for the tzibur? So you have to wait till Chol HaMoed when everybody is around and everybody has time, and you can say, all right, Chol HaMoed, we'll get together one night, we'll figure it out, and now we'll get together and we'll do what has to be done. So otherwise, what's going to happen is the tzarchei rabim are not going to be taken care of. If you don't take care of it now on Chol HaMoed when everybody is available, yispat el hadavar, the thing won't be taken care of and the needs of the rabbin will not be met. So that's one reason that the Chavetz Chaim brings over here. We'll discuss this in greater detail soon. V'lachein, therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, im yesh lahem manhig, if there is some kind of an authority figure, shaharishus biyadai lasais lavadai, who has the necessary authority and the necessary abilities, I guess he has the authority is the right word. If he has the authority to be able to take care of whatever has to be done so that he doesn't need everybody else. He doesn't need to discuss it with other people. Also, if he's the one that's in charge of the planning and he's the one who's in charge of the contracting and making sure everything gets done, so what are you waiting for Chol HaMoed for? You have the authority. Go ahead, make the plans and plan it for a regular weekday. Don't plan it for Chol HaMoed. Now, says the Chavetz Chaim, v'yesh bazeh shnei chilukim. You should know that there are two different categories over here when we say that you're allowed to do melachah l'tzarech harabim on the moed. De'im hu ma'aseh uman, if the work that needs to be done is going to take the work of a craftsman, that's a ma'aseh uman, then eina muter ela im kein shu tzarech hamoed. Then it's muter if the work that's going to be done is a tzarech hamoed. V'im hu ma'aseh hedyet, if it's only a ma'aseh hedyet, shari afilu hu rak tzarech achar hamoed. Then you're allowed to do tzarech rabim even if there's no tzarech hamoed at all, even if you're only doing it lachar hamoed. Now, I think here would be a good place to mention. The Chavetz Chaim gave us one rationale over here why tzarech rabim is muter on Chol HaMoed, and that is because if you don't take care of the tzarech rabim on Chol HaMoed when people are available, then the tzarech rabim are going to be neglected. After Yom Tov, everybody goes back to work, everybody goes back to the daily routine, and suddenly nobody has time for the tzarech rabim anymore. Therefore, you have to take care of the tzarech rabim on Chol HaMoed. And the truth is that the Rashba says this. But the Rashba says this as a heter for why a ma'aseh hedyet is mutter for a tzarech harabim, even if it's not a tzarech hamoed. Why are we being mater melachah on Chol HaMoed if it's not a tzarech hamoed? Usually the number one prerequisite that we need for melachah to be mutter on Chol HaMoed is it has to be a tzarech hamoed. If it's not a tzarech hamoed, we're not mater it. So why are we mater something on Chol HaMoed, tzarech harabim, if it's not even a tzarech hamoed, when it's a ma'aseh hedyet? That, says the Rashba, is because otherwise the tzarech rabim are going to become neglected. But we see over here in this Mishnah Berurah that we're also matir a ma'aseh uman l'tzarech harabim if it's a tzarech hamoed. On that, the Rashba gives a different rationale. Over there, the Rashba says, why is it that usually a tzarech hayachid, a need of one person, if he needs an uman, that's usually not mutter on Chol HaMoed if it's a ma'aseh uman. Like this, if somebody has something on Chol HaMoed that's a tzarech hamoed, so if he could fix it with a ma'aseh hedyet, it's mutter. Ma'aseh uman is not mutter, even if it's l'tzarech hamoed. Asks the Rashba why. So the Rashba says because one person could usually find an eitzah for whatever his problem is. For instance, we're going to speak about a beis hamerchatz. It's not really the perfect example to use because we're going to see it doesn't apply, I think, let's say, to our showers. But the Rishonim give an example. They say, let's say a merchatz. They say the merchatz of an individual person. So if his beis hamerchatz is not working and he's going to need a ma'aseh uman in order to fix it, so that's a tzarech hamoed. But takes a ma'aseh uman, we'll tell him, you know what, don't fix it. Borrow from your neighbor. Go use your neighbor's. But the rabbim, it's not an eitzah for the rabbim to tell the rabbim, go find another way out. The rabbim can't find another way out. The rabbim, you're talking about too many people. You're talking about too many needs. So when you have something that's a tzarech harabim, the Chazal wa mater, even a ma'aseh uman, when it's a tzarech hamoed. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut and base. Kigain, the Mechaber gave an example over here. Kigain to fix the streets. Says the Chavetz Chaim, va'afilu ma'aseh uman shari bezeh. In these examples that the Mechaber gives to fix the streets, to clear away obstacles from the streets, in these things you could even do a ma'aseh uman, kevin shedavar zeh tzarech gam b'moed, because all of these things are tzarech moed. The rabbim needs to be able to walk in the streets on the moed. So if you have to clear away obstacles from the streets, or you have to fix the potholes, you could do that on Chol HaMoed. That's tzarech moed. It's tzarech rabim and it's a tzarech hamoed. So you matter even a ma'aseh uman. Ois cotton gimel ulahasa mehem hamichsholos, to clear away obstructions and debris. The Gemara is, so you should know that the Gemara says the mechuyavin bazeh, that we're mechuyev to clear obstacles out of the Rishus HaRabim. Shalo yeh keshoifech damim im yera michshol. So because if the rabbim doesn't take care of obstructions in the street and somebody chas v'chalila gets hurt or gets killed from a mikshel in the rabbim, then the people who had the responsibility to clear it away, they're kishayfech damim. It's as if they spilled the blood of this person because they failed to take care of their responsibilities. You're allowed to repair a mikvah on Chol HaMoed, even with a Maaseh Uman. Says the Chavetz Chaim, "V'hu adin delachatchila gam ken mutar lasis mikvah b'Chol HaMoed." You could even initially build a mikvah on Chol HaMoed. V'dumyo dechafiras bar hamuvur b'siv beis. This is similar to the example of digging and creating a water cistern for drinking water that we're going to discuss tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem and Siv beis. V'dafka, says the Chavetz Chaim, kishetia nigmeres b'Chol HaMoed v'tia tzarech hamoed. However, this is only true if the mikveh is going to be completed on Chol HaMoed, so then it's a tzarech hamoed to make the mikveh. If not, then it's not going to be mutter to do a Maaseh Uman because it's not a tzarech hamoed. So then, even though it's tzarech rabim, only a Maaseh Hedyot would be mutter, not a Maaseh Uman. Okay, now says the Ramah, Haga, v'dafka tzarchei rabim ka'elu shehem tzrichim leguf ha'adam. The Ramah says that this heter, that you could take care of tzarchei rabim on Chol HaMoed, you could do melachah, is only when we're talking about things that are the needs of guf ha'adam. They meet the physical needs of people. Aval shar tzarchei rabim, but other types of public needs, kigoin, for example, binyan beis hakneses. You want to build a shul so that people can get together and daven with the minyan. On that, you turn the page, says the Ramah, Asar laseis b'moed. You're not allowed to build a shul on Chol HaMoed. That doesn't meet the physical needs of people. It meets their spiritual needs to get together and daven with the minyan, but not their physical needs. For hu adin, and the same halacha applies, says the Ramah, the l'shar tzarchei mitzvah, for other needs of mitzvahs. Asar laseis melachas uman b'moed. You are not allowed to do a Maaseh Uman on Chol HaMoed to meet the mitzvah needs of people. To meet the physical needs of people, then you're allowed to do l'tzarchei rabim. You're allowed to do a Maaseh Uman. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ois Cotton Hay. Tzarchei rabim ka'elu. When we're talking about tzarchei rabim, like the cases that the Mechaber gave of fixing the streets, clearing out the streets, being masakin a mikveh, those are things that meet the physical requirements of people. Then you have this heter to do a Maaseh Uman. Says the Chavetz Chaim in his cotton hay, v'hu adin l'sakin merchatz l'tzarech rabim. The same halacha would be if you want to make a public bathhouse. Sheyesh behen tzara gofim lo yerchaitz, because that is the physical needs of people. If they're not going to be able to wash, if they're not going to be able to take a shower, then they're going to be physically uncomfortable. So this is a tzarech hamoed, it's a tzarech haguf, it's tzarchei rabim because it's a public bathhouse. You're allowed to do even a Maaseh Uman. But again, this is only true if the repairs to the Beis HaMerchatz will be completed on Chol HaMoed v'tia tzarech hamoed imhu Maaseh Uman. And therefore it meets the bar of being a tzarech hamoed because the public bathhouse will be used on Chol HaMoed. So then it's a tzarech hamoed, it's a tzarech haguf, it's a tzarchei rabim, then it's mutter even to do a Maaseh Uman. However, the Rambam said something like building a shul, to build a shul, that is not tzarchei haguf. That doesn't meet the physical. That doesn't fulfill the physical requirements of a person. Says the Chavetz Chaim, l'revusa nakat. There's a chiddush over here. The reason the Ramah brought this case of building a shul is because there's a novelty. There's a chiddush. Ta'afilu binyan beis hakneses, even the building of a shul, shehu mitzvah, which is certainly a mitzvah, kedei lehispal by b'mayed ba'asara, in order to facilitate tefillah b'tzibur on Yom Tov, va'afilu ein lehem makam acher lehispal ba'asara, and maybe they don't have another place to get together and daven tefillah b'tzibur, gam kein aser. It's still aser to do this on Chol HaMoed, shezeh ein tzarech leguf ha'adam, because this is not tzarchei haguf. Va'afilu hischilu mikfar livnoisai, even if they already started building the shul. Ve'ein tzarech b'mayed ela lahashlimai, and now in Chol HaMoed they only need to complete the construction, but they're not initiating the construction. Also, this is forbidden, mipnei shehu tzarech Maaseh Uman lazeh, because you need a professional contractor. This is a Maaseh Uman. It's not tzarech haguf. It's tzarchei mitzvah, it's tzarchei rabim, but it's not tzarchei haguf. Kasra Paiskim, the Paiskim write, the Bisman Azeh, Binyan Beis HaKnesses Davar HaOved. The Paiskim write an interesting thing. They say that nowadays, and we'll see what that means, the building of a shul represents a Davar HaOved. Because we have to be concerned if we postpone the building of the Beis HaKnesses until after Yom Tov, then the non-Jewish authorities will pull the permits and they'll prevent you from building. So you have to strike when the iron is hot. If you have the ability to build the shul now, you have to go build it and complete it before they could stop you. Well, the Sefer Ma'amar Mordechai Kosav, the Sefer Ma'amar Mordechai, they write, everything depends on the locale and the time, because you have to see, is that true? Is that a real concern, that if you don't build it now, you may not be able to complete the project? Or is that not a real concern? And it's up to the Paisik. He has to see the facts on the ground and paskin accordingly, ayin sham. Ice cut and Zion, you're not allowed to do things like building a shul. You're not allowed to do them in the Mayad, Laseis b'Mayad. Kasav b'Shari Tshuva, the Shari Tshuva writes, Nagul Sader Tzarchei Rabim v'Chol HaMoed. The minig was to take care of all sorts of public requirements on Chol HaMoed. For example, Lamanois Gaboyemu Parnosim. That's when they made the general membership meeting in shul to decide who should be the president, and the vice president, and the secretary, and the treasurer, and the gabbai, and etc., etc. Venerally, and the Chavetz Chaim says it appears to him, if you're going to have to write down in shul, if you're going to have to memorialize everything and write it down, lo yichtov ksav ashuris, it should not be written in ksav ashuris, ki im mishita or ksav shalanu, it should be written in one of our common scripts. The B'Ksav Ashuris Shuhu Maise Uman, B'Ksav Ashuris is considered the work of an artisan. That's what you get a cipher for. We can't be mater or Maise Uman unless there's a Tzarech HaGuf. V'chanal. Tzarchei Mitzvah, Ratzaloymar, the Milas HaMitzvah Loymahani Lahatir. Even though you would think that there's a big mile in what you're doing because it's Tzarchei Mitzvah is not enough of a mile to be matir b'shvil zeh melachas uman, to allow a melachas uman to be permissible af kishetzarach lo b'mayid. U'maisi hedyet mutar l'tzarach hamayid af kishein b'mitzvah. The kanal b'simin taf kuf mem aleph sif hey. Okay, now there's a couple of interesting cases that you have based on this halacha. For example, we're seeing that tzarchei rabim are mutter on Chol HaMoed. Well, what's considered tzarchei rabim? So let's say here in Dirshu footnote number 1, they have an interesting case. The davar she'ena nitzrach l'shimush harabim. How about something that the rabim, the public, is not using? Elahu davar amizdamin tadir. It's something that's constantly needed. Ach b'chol pam nitzrach rak la'adam echad. But each time it's to meet the need of one person, which is an interesting situation. I'm not sure exactly what he means. Let's see what kind of cases he gives here. For instance, preparing a ksuba. Preparing a ksuba, on the one hand, is a tzarech harabim. You would say that it's a need of the rabbim, that you should be able to go into the Judaica store, you should be able to go into Eichler's here in Brooklyn, or Judaica Plaza in Lakewood, you should be able to walk in and you should be able to get a ksuba. That's a tzarech harabim. But each time somebody goes into the store to buy a ksuba, he only needs one ksuba. It's not the rabbim using the ksuba, it's one person using the ksuba. So kasav lekaman taf kuf mem hey sif cotton chaf. Taf kuf mem hey sif cotton chaf. Sif cotton chaf? I didn't think there was a sif cotton chaf. Taf kuf mem hey. Must be in the Mishnah Berurah sif cotton chaf. Yeah, the language of the Mishnah Berurah here is, see, the Mechaber says, Mutter lichtov cheshbonoisav alachshoiv, no, wrong one. Mutter lichtov shtar kedushin v'shtar psikta. You're allowed to write a shtar kedushin. A ksuba. Says the Chavetz Chaim, atam b'chol zeh, yeshoymer b'chol d'chol davar hamizdamein tadir. Something that happens constantly. Aval pisha b'chol pamu davar prati, even though each time it's only for one person, kitzarchei rabim chashiva. That's called tzarchei rabim. Okay, so in any case, the case that he gives over here in the Dirshu footnote, he says, When we tam zeh das hagayin from this karel tzatzal, shemuter lahafil tachbura tziburis b'mayid. You could run public transportation on Chol HaMoed. V'chein muter liskar autobus u'maniyos b'mayid. You could run bus services and taxi services. You see, I like the example of the taxi. If you run a taxi service, so could you keep your taxi service open on Chol HaMoed? Well, you'll say it's tzarchei rabim. Well, is it tzarchei rabim? Every time the dispatcher gets a phone call for a taxi, it's a tzarech of a yachid. There's one person calling for the taxi. It's not 20 people calling for the taxi. It's one person calling for the taxi. Nevertheless, what Rabbi Karel seems to say is that it's a public need that there should be a taxi service because many people need taxis. So when it's something that the tzibur needs, many different people need it, then it becomes tzarchei rabim. That's something which is called tzarchei rabim. Another thing that they discuss over here in another footnote is garbage pickup. In a Yiddish city, are you allowed to run? Are the Yidden allowed to run garbage pickup? Is that considered tzarchei rabim? Well, yes, that is called tzarchei rabim. You know why it's tzarchei rabim? Because if you don't pick up the garbage, the streets are going to turn into a barn. You can't have the streets everywhere. Everybody has to go out in the streets. It's going to stink and it's going to be filthy. You can't do that. So that's called tzarchei rabim. So it's interesting what comes up over here as a question of what's considered tzarchei rabim and what's not considered tzarchei rabim. I know that there's a Sharat Tzion over here. If you take a look at Sharat Tzion, ice cotton. Let me get back here. Ice cotton vav. So the Sharat Tzion is going on Mishnah Berurah. Where am I? Mishnah Berurah ice cotton hay. On back on Amud Aleph, on Tesvav Amud Aleph. Mishnah Berurah ice cotton hay. The Chavetz Chaim said, "V'hu adin l'sakin merchas l'tzarech rabim." You're allowed to repair a public bathhouse. Okay. The Sharat Tzion writes in ice cotton vav. He brings this down from the Magen of Ram B'Shem Rashba. And why are you allowed to do this? This really is coming, I think, from the Rashba. The reason you're allowed to repair a public bathhouse is because somebody is going to need the bathhouse. Now, I think what he's alluding to is the Rashba that I mentioned. When it's a public bathhouse, there's going to be, well, let's go a little weiter in the Sharat Tzion first. There's going to be somebody who's going to need the merchatz. For one person, for one person, you wouldn't necessarily repair a bathhouse. The yachid because one person could go without that base of merchatz. Let him go somewhere else. Borrow your neighbor's shower. So for one person, we wouldn't necessarily do it. But when you have a public bathhouse, it's a bathhouse that's serving a public. There's going to be somebody in the public who has no other eitzah other than using the public bathhouse. When you're making a gzeira on individuals, you want to say that the halacha is that an individual can't fix his merchatz. That you could do, because the vast majority of individuals will be able to figure out an eitzah to take care of their needs in another way. But when it's something that serves the public, there's always going to be somebody in the public who's caught in a situation. He just traveled, he just came into the city, he doesn't know anybody, whatever it is. There's going to be a situation where there's somebody who's going to be stuck without a merchatz if you don't go ahead and repair the public bathhouse. Now, it comes out from, you would read this Sharat Tzion ice cotton vav, and you would say that if your shower in your house breaks and you could repair it with a Maisa Hedyot, I would consider changing a shower head a Maisa Hedyot. So you'll tell me your shower broke on Chol HaMoed, and in order to repair your shower, you have to change the shower head. So you'll point me to this Sharat Tzion, and you'll say you're not allowed to repair your shower. Not allowed to do that. You're repairing your shower with a Maisa Hedyot on Chol HaMoed. It's a beferish Chavetz Chaim in the Sharat Tzion that you're not allowed to. But I want to refer you to Dirshu footnote number. I saw it here before. Oh, that's funny. This one doesn't have it. Yeah, Dirshu footnote number 5. They put it in the Sharetzion, I think, Ois Cotton Hay. Uletzarich Yachid, when it comes to the bathhouse of an individual person, Kasav b'Sharetzion Siv Cotton Vav she'asal l'sakin merchatz, that you're not allowed to repair your merchatz, your private merchatz. Kevet sheyachal b'loy merchatz, because don't take a shower. Or sheyachal l'leches l'makam acher, or go use your neighbor's shower. Ubir again Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach from the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, Shedivra Mishnah Berurah lo nemru le'inyan ambatya basis bizmanenu. That does not refer to the private bathrooms that we all have in our houses. She'ein dina kemerchatz, that doesn't have this din. Umutter l'sakno l'tzarech hamayid, and you are allowed to repair it if it's a tzarech hamayid, which it certainly is. V'das again when this karela satzal shebizmanenu, in our days, kevet she'ein derech b'nei adam l'lechas l'urchaytz v'bayis acher, nobody goes to their neighbor to take a shower. Umizbaishim b'kach, and somebody would be embarrassed to go, can I use your shower and come in your robe carrying your towel? No one's going to do that. Yesh makom lahater l'sakin es-hamerchatz shebebayis, that gives you a makom to be matir, to repair a beis hamerchatz in your house. Kemet shedoyme laheter shel rabim ulamaisei niach b'tzarechim. Certainly, I think that it would be mutter with a maisei hedyet. Maisei uman already, you're going to have to ask a shaila about a maisei uman. Even though I would look at it and I would say that nowadays, where most people don't go very long without taking a shower, it's tzarchei aguf. It's tzarchei aguf. We've seen that tzarchei aguf is very often considered tzarchei chol nefesh. Tzarchei chol nefesh, tzarchei hamayid, you're allowed to do even a maisei uman. So to repair, if it's the only shower in your house, if you have a house with 3 showers, I don't think you have any heter if one of your showers go down, especially to do a maisei uman to repair the shower, I don't see any heter. Even if the toilet becomes clogged or broken in such a way that you need a maisei uman, if you have 3 bathrooms in your house, I don't know how you're going to have a heter to do that in Chol HaMoed. But if it's the only shower in the house, I think that there's definitely room to be matir, even a maisei uman. Okay, a little bit short today. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The schus of limud HaTorah should be made against Klal Yisrael. The Rabbi should send Yeshuas, Refuas, and Parnassos to all those in need. And we should be zeicha. Once again, I keep on saying, to be yaitze me'afelu la'ora. And we should be zeicha to see finally the Bias Gal Tzedek b'meher v'yameinu. Be well.